We have a report from RTE Investigates, which raises significant questions over standards of corporate governance and fundraising practices at that charity. Paul Murphy has this report.
We like to think we love animals, from thoroughbred horses to the dogs and cats in our own homes. But there is a dark side to our treatment of animals. Every year, thousands are abused, neglected and abandoned. The problem of dealing with these animals is often left to charities which rescue them and try to find new homes for them. One of those charities is Kerry-based Animal Heaven Animal Rescue, or AHR. But all is not what it appears at the charity. Tonight, we uncover evidence of animal welfare concerns, misleading fundraising campaigns and a lack of financial transparency at AHR. Animal Heaven Animal Rescue is one of the busiest and best-known rescue centres in Ireland. Set up in 1991, it mainly looks after dogs and horses. According to its website, the charity rescues over 1,600 animals per year. The founder is Suzanne Gibbons, who was given the Irish Collar Community Champion Award in 2013 for her charity work. Until last month, the charity claimed to be 100% run by volunteers. It was stated on its Facebook page that Miss Gibbons works on average 18 to 20-hour days, 7 days a week, and claimed she never takes a wage and lives on not much more than fresh air. Suzanne Gibbons has repeated the claim that AHR is 100% volunteer-run in a radio interview.
Listen, I know you guys are always looking for help because you're voluntary, and I know you get a small donation from the state every year, but you do rely on people's donations.
We're a complete voluntary-run organisation.
Yeah.
We just rely on donations 24/7.
And it's really a tough thing to do because I know...
AHR may claim to be a volunteer-only organisation, but these documents show Suzanne Gibbons as being officially paid a salary of €320 per week. Documents show too that her weekly rent of €120 and other expenses have been paid from charity funds.
It's not a fully voluntary organisation. There has always been at least one worker, full-time worker there. But when I left, there was 2 full-time workers, and Suzanne Gibbons herself gets a wage as well.
It's actually misleading the public if you say nobody is paid or certain people aren't paid, when in actual fact the charity is funding them to do that work, and would actually cause me to look more closely at your activities.
Neither Suzanne Gibbons nor members of the charity's executive board made themselves available for interview. But Suzanne Gibbons told us in a letter that my salary is €16,500 per annum, plus board and expenses, which I respectfully submit is extremely low for any manager position.
Well, it's very important that charities are truthful with regards to the claims that they're making about their work. So if a person is being paid, then they're an employee, and it's not true to say that the organisation is entirely voluntarily run. There are employees.
There are other examples of poor corporate governance at AHR. Documents given to RTE Investigates by a whistleblower show the bank account used to conduct charity business is in the name of both Suzanne Gibbons and AHR, which is contrary to best practice and can lead to a lack of transparency. Hundreds of thousands of euro of public money has been paid into this account through donations or grants, including this grant from the Department of Agriculture, which has given €54,000 to the charity since 2012.
This would cause us concerns on a number of levels. The founder doesn't sit as a member of the board of management. The bank account should certainly not be in the name of anybody who doesn't sit on the board, because the board of management then don't have control of that account, and if they don't have control of the account, the charity doesn't have control of the account, because the founder, for legal purposes, is a third party.
We engaged forensic accountant Jim Luby to examine a number of annual financial accounts for Animal Heaven Animal Rescue, along with 8 months of the charity's bank statements to July 2014. He went through all of the lodgements, withdrawals and payments for that period and analysed spending and other patterns reflected in the bank statements.
In that 8-month period, it seems to be almost a melange of an account between a business account and a personal account, and that is not something which is acceptable.
This is public money. It should be kept entirely separate. It's given and it should be kept in the charitable realm. It is not private money. It should never, ever be mixed with somebody's personal money.
AHR's executive committee is made up of 4 trustees who are responsible for the corporate governance, oversight and financial control of the charity. In a letter to RTE, the trustees said they had full oversight of these account details at all times. They also said that Suzanne Gibbons was authorised by the executive committee to arrange for the payment of her wages and expenses.
It would be very, very poor practice for a board to agree to such a thing. What should be happening is that there should be a charitable bank account that is under the control of the board with 2 signatories authorising all expenses above a petty cash level.
In their response, the trustees said they are satisfied there was no element of wrongdoing. They added that, to avoid the possibility of any negative inferences being incorrectly drawn, they have opened a new account for our business. 2 executive committee members are the only authorised signatories on this account, they said. They also said they introduced a new system where all wages will now be discharged electronically directly to employees' personal accounts. There is another striking feature of the AHR accounts.
What really jumps out is the overall level of cash withdrawal. In a normal business, you would see a certain level of cash expenditure, but here, in that 8-month period I looked at, out of total income or donations of about 245,000, almost half is withdrawn as cash.
The bank statements show that in February 2014, over €15,000 of AHR cash was withdrawn at ATMs. In March, it was also over 15,000. In April, more than €8,000. And in May, over €9,000. AHR's trustees said in their response that the charity previously had no chequebook or credit card for its main account, so payments other than those made by direct debit to suppliers are done by ATM cash withdrawals.
From a financial controls perspective, that would be most unorthodox and not good practice. The key requirement here is that the trustees of the charity need to understand that they are controlling public resources. It's the public's funds, and that's why such high standards of transparency and accountability are required. It's our money that they're spending.
Receipts required to document cash spending were not always provided.
I kept saying to her, I need more receipts, I need more receipts. Oh, I'll get them, and you might get a big bag full, and then you might not get anything for a few months. So I would have probably got half the receipts.
In their response, AHR's trustees said they do not accept that receipts were not provided to the Treasurer. They also said that there have been a small number of payments for which receipts could not be obtained, but these have been properly recorded. There is no suggestion that charity money was misappropriated, but the substantial cash withdrawals and limited receipting mean there was an overall lack of financial transparency.
It's not transparent at all. An organisation, whether it's a charity or anything else, is obliged to keep proper books and records. Proper books and records includes maintaining evidence of what you have spent the money on, which you can present to the board, you can present to your auditors, you can present to the revenue commissioners as required.
Much AHR fundraising is done through its Facebook page, which boasts over 185,000 likes. Donations are regularly sought from the so-called AHR army of Facebook followers to rescue animals from fairs and livestock dealers. These animals are not rescued in the commonly accepted sense. They are purchased. This is a controversial practice.
The ISPCA feels that the purchasing of animals as a form of rescue is counterproductive. If you have an objection to people selling animals in a particular environment and you want to limit it or stop that, well, purchasing them isn't going to achieve that. It just perpetuates the problem.
AHR calls some fundraisers code reds, emergency call-outs to supporters for funds to rescue animals. Here's one example from July, phrased in rousing language. Code red. We've just been alerted to 15 equines who need to be saved and transported to AHR. As normal, we've made no promises, only we will take what we can as we raise the funds. This mission will really test our army, and we'll have to fight harder and longer until the last one is home and safe. Christina from England was quick to respond.
Small donation sent. Come on, everyone. We can all spare a little bit, please.
Gillian followed with
€100 donated via PayPal from the UK. I hope you can save them all. XXX.
And Jackie from Limerick.
Donation made. Pure luck it's today. Payday for me. Go get 'em.
As the Code Red gathers pace, videos of equines are gradually put online. These are presented as if they were brought in as the charity raises funds to pay for their transport. In this video put online in the evening of July 22nd, Suzanne Gibbons describes the ponies as if newly rescued and brought to the charity.
The first little one is here. We won't ask him to walk too much, but I just want you to see what we see. Poor little lad. Next we have number 5. Lovely little colt foal. Poor little sad, he's a sore eye. This is number 6. Gorgeous little pretty filly Shetland. As of now, she doesn't have a sponsor.
But what donors were not told is that when Ahar was seeking money to buy these animals and transport them, they were already purchased and on the grounds of the charity. These pictures, showing 3 of the animals at the Ahar premises, were sent to a volunteer by Suzanne Gibbons just after midnight on July 22nd, more than 9 hours before the charity requested public donations to rescue them. The animals shown in the pictures are the same as the equines supposedly rescued later that day and posted in videos online.
If I was somebody who had donated to this, I would just feel so let down and I would feel hurt, because trust is what underpins this sector. And if you don't have that trust in who I am giving to and how they are reporting on that hard-earned money that I've donated, you know, what do you have? So that is completely unacceptable, and it is not how the charity sector operates, because the vast majority of charities would never, ever, ever operate under those standards.
The charity's executive committee told RTE that the equines were secured prior to issuing the Code Red, but not paid for. They also said that if payment were not made, the owner would demand their return and they would be transported for slaughter. But RTE Investigates has seen evidence which calls into question whether horses were genuinely being rescued in many other Code Reds as well. The evidence suggests that in the vast majority of cases, the horses were in fact not in danger of slaughter or abuse. They were simply purchased from dealers and subsequently shown on Facebook in an effort to create the impression that a major rescue operation was underway. So how much money does Ahar take in fundraising? It is substantial. Audited accounts for 2013 to 2015 inclusive show the charity received more than €1 million in funding and donations in that 3-year period. Auctions, direct debits, text donations all add to the charity's funds. Much of the revenue, however, comes from donors abroad via PayPal, an online payments company. Records seen by RTE Investigates show that well-wishers donated an average of €12,000 per month via PayPal alone in 2015. But in the first 3 months of 2016, this jumped to an average of €32,000 per month. A former trustee familiar with the charity's finances spoke to us anonymously.
I think 46,000 came in February alone, and that was just through PayPal. That wasn't counting Irish bank donations, UK bank donations, text donations, cheques for postal orders in the post.
A donkey just couldn't contain his joy and broke out in a large grin after he was rescued from...
The jump in donations came after the charity was profiled both nationally and internationally over a year ago, when it pulled a donkey from flooding in a genuine rescue.
Suzanne, what was lovely was the picture that went viral. Literally a smiling donkey.
Yes.
Well, listen, well done to you, and he's brilliant and he's on the mend.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and just before you go, Suzanne, you do a lot of work with animals there, don't you?
Yeah, the rescue centre is Animal Heaven Animal Rescue. It's in Castleisle, County Kerry. And we're always looking for volunteers. Like, we'd always have over maybe 100 horses in our care, always about 90 dogs. But we do other animals as well.
The increased profile means more potential donors. While most donations range from a couple of euro to hundreds of euro, one donor gave €324,000, most of which was used to help buy the charity's premises and 37 acres of land in 2014. Later that year, the donor wrote a letter to the charity stating they were withdrawing any further support. In the letter, the donor criticised a lack of transparency at the charity. Accounts for 2014 have not been made available as agreed, the letter said, and neither has there been any evidence for planned budgets. The charity's biggest donor also had concerns about animal care at Ahar. An inspection report shared with the charity by the donor in July 2014 concluded that there was a low quality of life for animals in Ahur, that care for dogs was sporadic, and there was an imbalance between the number of animals rescued and those that the charity is equipped to handle. Ahur also lost a patron in 2014. Sharon Shannon, the charity's most high-profile fundraiser and donor, had become concerned about poor care for animals there.
There was just far too many unanswered questions, mostly about various different animals. And she was an expert at avoiding answering questions that she was uncomfortable with.
The treatment of animals had been a concern to the Department of Agriculture, which in April issued an animal welfare notice in relation to 3 equines, stating it believes that Suzanne Gibbons may have or may be in contravention of sections of the Animal Health and Welfare Act relating to causing unnecessary suffering and the prohibition on neglecting or being reckless regarding animal health and welfare. The Department of Agriculture told RTE Investigates that the animal welfare notice was acted upon and the necessary attention was provided to the equines. It added that in total 4 animal welfare notices were issued to the charity in 2016, the most recent just last August. The department said the notices have been complied with or are being complied with. Reporter Niamh Walsh wrote to the Department of Agriculture looking for copies of its inspection reports. The department refused to release the reports.
They wouldn't give me the reports on the basis that it was contrary to public interest. So I just didn't see how a charity that was in receipt of so much money, why they wouldn't release the reports. If there was nothing wrong, release the reports. Show everybody, show the public where their money is being spent.
Like other rescue charities, Ahur has received many animals in a bad state and successfully rehomed them. In a Facebook posting, Suzanne Gibbons described her role as a rescuer. Rescuers take weak and thin animals who need a safe place with veterinary care, food and, when healthy, find them a home, she wrote. But there is evidence that some animals sent from Ahur for rehoming arrived to their new owners in a very poor condition. This collie cross was rehomed by the charity to Deirdre O'Rourke in August.
On the advertisement, it just said that he was a neglected case. So I was immediately attracted to him because they're the ones that's most vulnerable. They're the ones that need a home most.
What the ad did not say was that prior to being rehomed, the dog had died while in Ahur care during a medical procedure and was resuscitated. In this recorded phone call given to RTE by a whistleblower, Suzanne Gibbons discusses the dog's demise.
Truthfully, said to me that dog could be 16 years old. They did desperate extractions in the back of his mouth, his heart stopped on the table as well. His heart stopped on the table and brought him back.
Although Ahur says it will share information about an animal's temperament or health with those who adopt its dogs, Deirdre says she was not given this information. She was expecting an old but healthy dog.
He was in dreadful condition. I got such a hop when he got out of the van. I thought maybe that might have been the journey, but then trying to even get him up my driveway, his back legs were very wobbly, his front legs were not stable, and his head was just bowed down. He just didn't want to go, he didn't want to be. I just thoroughly believe he just didn't want to be anywhere.
After 5 days, Deirdre brought him to the vet, whose report stated that the dog was emaciated, dehydrated, extremely weak and unable to stand, and that he had recently undergone castration and a dental procedure before being sent to Deirdre.
Having him put to sleep was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do because, first of all, it was a decision I knew I had to make. The kindest thing had to be done was have him put down. And then when he was being put down, I was just holding his little head. He couldn't even hold his head up. He was just pure weak. And the vet administered the injection and that really knocked me. It broke my heart. The dog absolutely should not have been sent. It should not have left the shelter. In its last days, it deserves comfort and peace.
Were animals being rehomed that were in a very poor physical condition?
On a few occasions, it did happen. And for it to happen once is once too many. Because with proper management of a rescue centre, it shouldn't happen.
In her letter, Suzanne Gibbons said those adopting animals were made aware of any health problems prior to adoption. English animal lover Emma Middlehurst first became familiar with Ahur as a Facebook follower. She visited the charity from her home in the UK last year and offered to adopt some animals. In April, she took delivery of 6 horses and was shocked at the condition of some of them.
There was a mare on board who needed 2 guys supporting it and us to get it to the stable. It just literally couldn't walk. And then the last one came off, so emaciated.
A vet was called, and according to his report, the animals were in very poor body condition and had not been wormed. 2 of them were so bad that they were unfit to travel, said the vet. One of those was Grace, a horse which, according to the vet, was severely anemic and was emaciated with severe weight loss and a body condition score of 1 out of 5.
And I remember the vet saying to me, look, we're going to have to take some bloods. I need to check kidney function, liver function, because you might be doing all this and it could be a waste of time. She's that emaciated. It's unlikely that she's going to survive the next 48 hours.
However, after much care and attention, Grace survived and is now the healthy horse seen here. The vet report, however, also noted that neither Grace nor the 5 other horses arrived with a passport, which is a legal requirement for the movement of horses.
They sent these marking sheets. They're not passports. They're how to go about getting a passport. So the minute they left Ireland, they physically left with no passports. I had no choice but to contact the passport agents in the UK, and they've registered them.
It wasn't just horses. The charity had been sending dogs to the UK without a passport and without a rabies vaccination. In 2014, a vet working for AHR warned a donor, highlighting concerns that the legal requirement of passport and rabies vaccination for dogs to the UK is not being fulfilled by the charity due to cost and low inspection rates at ports.
As part of the welfare community, it's incumbent on us to set the example, we believe. You know, if the legislation is there which requires certain criteria to be fulfilled before animals can be exported, we should be complying with that. All members of the rescue community should be.
Suzanne Gibbons told RTE that we do not have any records of non-passported dogs travelling to the UK. While legally AHR is overseen by a board, it appears to be very much in the control of a single individual. In another of the recorded phone calls given to RTE Investigates, Ms Gibbons discusses a suggestion from a third party for her to allow more oversight at AHR.
So, said you need to get more people on the committee and you need to act as a committee. And I said, if you think for a second that I'm ever going to ask permission from anybody to do something, it's not going to happen.
In various phone calls last year, the founder talked about owning the charity.
I am the owner of AHR. I am the owner. Last time I looked, I said I owned AHR and I was the boss. And these people all around me were volunteers, told me that they'd help me. But I said never once did they tell me what to do or control people around me.
Nobody owns a charity. A charity is for the public benefit. You don't get charitable status unless you can show that you are purely for charitable purposes and the public is benefiting from what you do. It's because a charity is a public purpose that we provide it with tax exemption, that we extend the protection of now the charity regulator who oversees all of these bodies on our behalf, because nobody owns them.
In another recorded phone call, Miss Gibbons discussed targeting the house of a charity committee member with whom she was in disagreement.
Fucking scumbag. Fucking scumbag, like. Do you know what I was saying to tonight? If there was a drive-by, rock went through his window, right? I said, they walked first, he went, yep. No, but I'm serious. Are you telling me he wouldn't piss in his pants and shut the fuck up and leave us alone?
In its letter, the executive board of the charity denied that this conversation occurred.
Anyone that asks too many questions is subjected to vicious character assassination attacks. People are accused of all sorts of things, like being alcoholics or drug addicts or thieves, a liar, bad parents, sluts, scumbags, scum of the earth. Just really, really awful stuff.
In her response, Suzanne Gibbons wrote, "I admit and regret using these phrases on occasion in the past," adding that she herself had been subject to significant and serious verbal abuse in the public domain. The spotlight on AHR's governance comes at a time when the wider charity sector has been working hard to regain public confidence after controversies in recent years.
Let's bring it back to basic, fundamental ethics. The charity sector is built on trust, and we're in a situation now where the public desperately need to have their confidence restored in the work that the charity sector are doing. And for the most part, the charity sector are 100% committed to restoring that trust, so you need to have airtight governance and structures and procedures in place.
RTE Investigates reporter Paul Murphy is with me now. Paul, you have an update tonight, I understand, on that story.
Sure, yeah, just this evening, just before 7 o'clock, we got an email from the charities regulator, and he said, the regulator's office said that they've imposed sanctions with immediate effect on the charity under Section 73 of the Charities Act. Now, we knew that the charities regulator was cognisant of our because we had been in touch with them in December looking for comment about the charity, but also we're aware of at least 3 detailed complaints that were made to the regulator's office over the previous year. But it seems that in more recent times they visited the charity, they assessed it, and they deemed that it wasn't in compliance with the law, specifically with regards to bookkeeping and also financial management. Now, they told the charity under Section 73 that they have to take on somebody or get somebody who has sufficient accounting experience to keep proper books of account. They have to introduce reporting so that it's easily visible to see what the income and expenditure of the charity is. And also they have to ensure, the trustees have to ensure that they scrutinise the finances on a regular basis. And in fact, the issue of financial scrutiny is supposed to be a regular fixture on the agenda of these management meetings. Now, this is the first time that the charities regulator has taken that type of action, and it's also important to say the charity trustees cooperated with them, and they admitted, or sorry, they agreed with his assessment. The situation now is they have 4 weeks to fix the problem. Yeah.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much indeed for that.